Alrighty guys, let's go ahead and take a look at this dimensional analysis homework. So the first question we have here is convert 10,400 inches into miles. So first thing I want to do is go ahead and rewrite this 10,400 inches down below. And then I need to find a way to get from inches to miles. So if I look up here at all of my conversions, I can see some that are listed. I have inches to centimeters. And then do I have centimeters into something else that's going to help me get there? Unfortunately, I don't on this. There is one conversion that I don't have, and the reason why it's not up here is because it's something that I believe you guys should know, which is that 12 inches is equivalent to 1 foot. Okay? So if I have 12 inches to 1 foot, I then have 5,280 feet into 1 mile. So that's the conversion route I'm going to go. And I'm just going to list that here down below so that I know what I have and what I need as I do this problem. So 12 inches is equivalent to 1 foot. And then under that, I have 5,280 feet is equivalent to 1 mile. Okay. Now that I have this information, I can go ahead and start solving. So if I have inches right here, I'm going to need a ratio where I have inches on the top here, means I need inches on the bottom here. I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot, so I would write my ratio right here. Next step, now that I have inches on top and inches on the bottom, they cancel out. I have feet on top, so I need feet on the bottom. So I'll write feet on the bottom here, and my next conversion would be miles. So 1 mile, as we wrote down here, is equivalent to 5,280 feet. Therefore, feet cancel out, and I'm just left with miles. All I have to do now is multiply my way through. I get 10,400 divided by 12 times 1 divided by 5,280. Therefore, once I multiply everything, I should end up with 0.16 miles. All right, let's take a look at the next one. The next one is 22 weeks into seconds. So I don't have any time up here. And again, that's because I think you guys should know this. But I'll go ahead and start again by writing 22 weeks down below. And then now I need a way to go from weeks into seconds. Well, I know that 1 week is equivalent to 7 days. So I'm going to write that down here. And I know that 1 day is equal to 24 hours. I also know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. And lastly, I know that 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So this one's going to take a few steps, but I have everything I need. I can go from weeks to days, days to hours, hours to minutes, minutes to seconds, and get my answer. So let's go ahead and do what we did before. We have weeks on top here, means we need weeks on the bottom here. So 1 week on the bottom, 7 days on top. Next, we have days on top here. We need days on the bottom here. So 1 day is equivalent to 24 hours. All right, next step, we have hours on top here. We need hours on the bottom here. We know 1 hour is equivalent to 60 minutes. And then lastly, we have minutes on top there. We need minutes on the bottom here. We know that 1 minute is equivalent to 60 seconds. So if I look, all of my tops should cancel out with all my bottoms. And I get weeks cancels out with weeks, days with days, hours with hours, minutes with minutes, and I'm just left with seconds, which is what I want for my final units here. So now all I have to do is multiply my way through just like I did before. 22 times 7 times 24 times 60 times 60. Plug all that into your calculator. You get a ginormous number, which is 13,305,600 seconds. So the key to solving these problems is writing out each of your steps. If you don't write out the steps, you'll probably make a mistake somewhere and get it wrong. So please just take the time to write out your steps. Number 3, we have 43 yards into centimeters. So again, let's find out how we can go from yards into centimeters. So if we look up above at our equations, we can see that 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. And we know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches because we said that earlier. And then we know that 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So the hardest part of these problems is just finding out what everything is equal to and finding out how to go from one place to another. The math should be the easiest part because you're just plugging that into your calculator. So let's write out all those ratios down below. And we said 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. And 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. And 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. So now we just need to multiply our way through. And before we multiply, though, we need to write down those ratios up above. So we have yards on top here, means we need yards on the bottom here. So 1 yard is equivalent to 3 feet. We have feet on top here. We need feet on the bottom here. 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. And then lastly, inches on top there means we need inches on the bottom here. 1 inch is equivalent to 2.54 centimeters. So yards cancel out, feet cancel out, inches cancel out, and we're just left with centimeters, which is what we want to end with. Now we just multiply 43 times 3 times 12 times 2.54. That's going to give us 3,931.92 centimeters. Alrighty, looks like we got one more problem left on this page. And we have 53 centimeters per second into miles per hour. So this is definitely our hardest question because we have 2 units here. We have one on top and one on the bottom, converting to 2 different units, one on top, one on the bottom. So first, let's start by going from centimeters to miles. And MPH stands for miles per hour. So it's important that we know that and not meters per hour. Okay. So first step is getting from centimeters into miles. So let's look up here and see if we can do that. Well, if we look what we did before, we did inches to miles, and we have a conversion from inches and centimeters. So we can use that combined with this to get from centimeters into miles. So let's start by writing 2.54 centimeters is equal to 1 inch. 12 inches equal to 1 foot, and 5,280 feet is equal to 1 mile. Okay. We're going to take a shortcut for the last part because I'm running out of space down below, but we need to get from seconds to hours. If we saw what we did before, we said that 60 seconds is equivalent to 1 minute and 60 minutes are equivalent to 1 hour. Therefore, we could shorten this and say that 3,600 seconds is equivalent to 1 hour. Now that we have all the conversions we need, it's really just plugging these in and writing it in the correct order and canceling stuff out. So let's start with the top because I feel like that's easiest. We have 53 centimeters over seconds. And if we have centimeters on top here, that means we need centimeters on the bottom there. So that means 1 inch goes on top and 2.54 centimeters goes on the bottom. Next, we have inches on top there, means that we need inches on the bottom. So 12 inches and 1 foot. And then we have 5,280 feet and 1 mile. So we've successfully gotten to miles at the end, so that one's good. But now we need to take these seconds and convert them on over to hours. So I like to just write everything out and then plug it into my calculator. I think it's easiest. So if we do that, we're going to go ahead and continue right here. And we have how many seconds are in an hour? Well, we said 3,600 seconds. This is where things get tough. Seconds is on the bottom here, which means that we need seconds on the top here. This is the part that a lot of people make a mistake on. So please, please, please pay attention to this part. We get 3,600 seconds is equivalent to 1 hour. Now we can see centimeters cancels out with centimeters, inches with inches, feet with feet, and we have miles on top. Seconds on the bottom cancels out with seconds on top, and we have hours on the bottom. Therefore, we get a final answer of miles over hours or miles per hour. Next, all we have to do is just plug all this into our calculator, and we end up with 1.19 miles per hour. But please, please, please pay attention to this step right here. This is the one that people make mistakes on. Again, seconds is on the bottom up here, so it needs to go on top over here in our equation. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. So we have 6,452 feet per hour, and we want to go ahead and convert that into meters per second. So now the little m stands for meters. And the reason why it stands for meters here is because meters per second is the general physics unit that we're going to use for nearly every problem that we do. Miles per hour, with the little m here, is what we use in America and we're more used to. But for physics, we're going to go ahead and use meters per second. I'll do my best to just use a little m for meters. And if we do miles, I'll try to write mi or miles per hour. Cool. All right, so let's find out a way to go from feet to meters. So if we look here, it doesn't look like we have the easiest route, unfortunately, to go from feet to meters. But we do know that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. And we know that 1 inch is equivalent to 2.54 centimeters. And we should know from chemistry that 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. So let's go ahead and write those steps below from feet to meters, and then we'll do the other steps from hours to seconds. So 1 foot is equal to 12 inches, and 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters, and 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. All right, the next step would be to go from hours to seconds, and we did that in our previous problem where we said 1 hour is equivalent to 3,600 seconds. So 1 hour equals 3,600 seconds. Now we just go ahead and write it like we've been doing before. 6,452 feet over hours. So first we have to write our feet conversion. We have feet on top here, means we need feet on the bottom here. 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. Next we have inches on top there, means that we need inches on the bottom here. 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. And then lastly, we have centimeters on top there, means that we need centimeters on the bottom here. So 100 centimeters is equivalent to 1 meter. So now we've gone from feet into meters. We need hours into seconds. So let's go ahead and add those below. We have hours on the bottom here, means that we need hours on top here, seconds on the bottom here. 1 hour is equivalent to 3,600 seconds. Feet cancel out with feet, inches, inches, centimeters, centimeters. We're just left with meters on top, hours on the bottom, hours on top, just left with seconds on the bottom. So we have a final unit of meters over seconds. Now we just need to multiply 6,452 times 12 times 2.54 divided by 100 divided by 3,600. Doing so, we end up with 0.55 meters per second. Always good to circle your answer so we know what your final answer is. All right, number 6. Number 6 is a little bit more difficult, but also kind of easy once you know how to do it. So we need to go from centimeters cubed into inches cubed. We know that 2.54 centimeters is equivalent to 1 inch. Unfortunately, though, we don't have just centimeters and just inches. We have centimeters cubed and inches cubed. So what we have to do is we need to cube both sides of this. So cubing both sides is going to take this 3 and cube the number and the units. It's going to cube the 1 and the units. So 2.54 cubed is really 16.39 centimeters cubed is equivalent to, well, 1 cubed is just 1, and inches cubed is inches cubed. So now we can take that information and use it to solve for our problem. We have 50 cubic centimeters, and we have that on top, so we need that on bottom. and then inches cubed on top. 1 inch cubed is equal to 16.39 centimeters cubed. Centimeters cubed cancel out, inches cubed stays up top. We do 50 divided by 16.39. We end up with a final answer of 3.05 inches cubed. All right, time for our last problem. Last one wants us to go from gallons into cubic centimeters. So if we look above, we're going to see that we have some stuff with gallons in it. We have 1 gallon is equivalent to 4 quarts. 1 quart is equivalent to this many milliliters, and milliliters into centimeters cubed. So let's take that information and write it down below, and it will really help us see the path that we need to take. So 1 gallon is equivalent to 4 quarts. And then we said 1 quart is equivalent to 946 milliliters. And then again, from chemistry, we should know that 1 milliliter is equivalent to 1 cubic centimeter. Now that we have this information, we can go ahead and start writing down our problem. 46 gallons. Well, gallons are on top here, so we need gallons on the bottom here. So 1 gallon and then 4 quarts times, we have quarts on top there, means that we need quarts on the bottom here. 1 quart is equivalent to 946 milliliters. And then lastly, we have milliliters on top, need milliliters on the bottom, and cubic centimeters on top. Gallons cancel out, quarts cancel out, milliliters cancel out. We're just left with cubic centimeters. Multiply our way through, and we end up with 174,064 cubic centimeters. So just to review, make sure that when you guys are doing these problems, you write out your steps, you write out all of your work, cross it off, and then multiply it through in your calculator.